Okay, for this lesson we're going to start talking about some array methods. The first method we're going to talk about is toString. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's open up brackets in a terminal window. I believe we have a folder called Array Methods. Let's use that folder. Array Methods. And we don't have anything in there. We'll say touch program.js, and we'll say open, and let's just go up here and open up a folder here. File, open folder, array methods, go for it. Alright, so we have our brackets open. We've got a file program.js that we'll use, and we'll use Node to run this JavaScript file. We're going to start with the toString method. Let's create an array first of all. As you remember, to create an array, we're going to say variable. Let's say we have an array of numbers. Let's start with cars. And we create an array by opening and closing our square brackets, and then we can add the elements of our array inside those square brackets. So I'm going to put some car names in here. Oops, that's not right. Alright, that should do it. Let's do one more. Alright, so in our array, we have an array. Its name of the name of the array is called cars. And it is an array of 1, 2, 3, 4 items. And as you recall, we can index into these items. This is index 0, 1, 2, and 3. Let's see what, let's go ahead and log this out. If we just log cars, just as it stands, it's going to oops, I did not save this. Oops. Something going on here. Okay, so we're going to say node program.js, and you can see that we simply logged the array to our output, and it simply displayed it looks just exactly like what we put in there, and so it shows us all the items in the array format. Let's find out what happens if we use the toString method. So what we can do is we can say, just kind of come right in here and say cars.toString. String is a method. Let's see what it does for us. Now what you can see is that it created a string with the items and put a comma between them for us. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's look at the join method. Let's see what join does for us. So we'll say cars.join. Join's a method, so we open and close our brackets. Save that and look at that. So it looks like join and toString do about the same thing. Now what you'll find is that join, we can send in a parameter. By default, the separator that it uses is a comma. If we wanted to use a different separator, we could add that separator. Let's say we want to have a pipe. Not an exclamation mark, but a pipe here. I'm having trouble. There we go. Now, because we told join to use the pipe as the separator, sure enough, it took and joined the items of the array into a string and separated them with the pipe. You could use other things, like let's say we wanted to a tab between them. Then I could have a nice tab between them. So this is a very interesting command. And again, that is different than toString. Let's say toString. which all toString does is give you a comma separated string, whereas join allows you to choose the separator. And let's just say I want to put a Z in between them. Kind of a silly thing to do. Oops. Oops. Okay, so now I got a Z between them. Okay, let's move on to pop. What does pop do? What we can do is, if we want to what we can do is we can call the pop command, and it will take the last item on the right and give it to you, and it'll take it out of the array. So let's try it. Let's say variable pop result equals cars dot pop, and then what we will do is we'll show what cars looks like. What does the array look like after we pop, and what does the pop result look like? Let's see what this is. We got two things we're going to log out. First one you can see is that the Tesla has been taken off of the array. So there's one less item in that array now since we popped it. And then you can see that the result of the pop result is the Tesla, which was popped off the right hand side. So that's a very useful function. Push. Let's look at push. Push. Let's go see this. We use push to add an item to the right hand side of the array, or to the end of the array is probably a better way of saying it. So what we do is we have to add an item. So let's say we're going to put a Datsun. Then what we can do is go ahead and log out the array, and so now you can see that cars has another item. So push provides us a way to add items to the end of the array. Pop provides us a way to take something out of the right hand side of the array, or the end of the array. Okay, let's talk about shift. Shift is another interesting command. What we can do is we can say var shift result equals cars dot shift. And what's going to happen is, and again we're going to need to log cars and the shift result, like so. Because what's going to happen is it's going to take the Volvo, it's going to shift the Volvo off to the left and assign that to this variable called shift result. So cars is going to be Chevy, Ford, and Tesla, and shift result is going to be Volvo. Let's check that out. And sure enough, Chevy, Ford, and Tesla, and Volvo got shifted out from the beginning of the array. Unshift. Let's look at unshift. Now with unshift, let's go ahead and kill that. I'm just going to say cars.unshift. And then we're going to just display cars. And what we're going to see is that when we unshift, we're actually feeding in a new item to the beginning of the array. So let's shift on to it a Buick. Okay, so we should see Buick, Volvo, Chevy, Ford, Tesla, and indeed we do. Okay. So basically you have these four methods that allow you to add new items to the beginning, add new items to the end, shift things off of the end, and shift things off of the beginning. Okay. Next item would be changing elements of an array. And so let's say that we want to, we initially set up our array like this, and we decide that we want to change Ford to something else. So what we would do is we would say cars, and we would index into it. So we'd say that Ford is index 0, 1, 2, and we would set that equal to another car name. Let's say BMW. So now it was initially set to where it looks like this. We're going to take index 2, which is the Ford, and change it to BMW. And so there we go. So sure enough, Volvo, Chevy, BMW, Tesla, we did it. So that's how you can make changes to existing items in an array. The delete operator. Let's check on the delete operator real quick. With the delete operator, we can delete an item. Let's see how this works. Excuse me. What we do is we say delete cars, and then we let's say we're going to delete the Ford. That would be index 2. Let's look at what cars looks like. We'll log out cars. And what's important here is it actually didn't delete the whole item. It simply just, it kind of nulled out the item in index 2. There's still, if you look at the count, or the length, excuse me, the length of that array, you can see it's still 4. There's still 1, 2, 3, 4 items. It's just that index 2 is blank. So if we just show what index 2 looks like, it's undefined. Okay, so by deleting it, it made 2, the item in index position index 2 is undefined. So, okay. So there's the delete operator. Let's talk about splice. And so the splice is a very interesting command, very powerful. It does quite a little bit. Let's take cars.splice. Now with the splice command, there's up to 3 parameters. The first parameter is the start position, or so let's say let's just say we're gonna start at index position 1. And we want to delete 2 positions. We could do this. Let's see what this does. Console.log cars. So you can see that with Splice, I can put 3 parameters in there, but I don't have to put all 3. In fact, the first position indicates the starting position. The second position indicates how many items we're going to delete. So you can see, in fact, what happened was we started in position 1, which is right here on Chevy, and we said we wanted to delete 2 things. So what you see is it got rid of the Chevy and the Ford. The Chevy and the Ford are missing here. So with Splice, we were able to choose a position and delete 2 items. Okay. Let's experiment with that a little bit more. Let's say we want to start and delete Ford and Tesla. I would simply move that to 2. So I'd say 0, 1, 2, and I want to delete 2 items, and so that should get rid of, so all I see is Volvo and Chevy. Now, another thing we can do, it's all fine and dandy to delete things, but you can also add things using Splice. So if I put 0 in the second position, as the second parameter, that means I'm not interested in deleting things. It means I'm going to be adding some things. So what I can do now is I can put the Dotson back in, and so it's going to go to index 2 and add a Dotson. Let's try it. And sure enough, 0, 1, 2, in the position 2, I've got a Dotson. Okay, and you can add more than one thing. So let's go ahead and put the Buick back in. So I'm going to start at position 2 and add a Dotson and a Buick. And sure enough, I've got a Volvo, Chevy, Dotson, Buick, Ford, and Tesla. Okay, so again, the first parameter is kind of the index where we're going to begin doing something, either adding or deleting. The second parameter is like how many items do you want to delete. Now, you can also do this. I can actually start in position 2, delete 2 items, and then add 2 items, all at the same time. That's pretty powerful. So let's watch this. So what happened was I started at position 2, 0, 1, 2. I deleted those, the Ford and the Tesla, and then I added in a Datsun and a Buick. Pretty powerful thing. All right, so that is the splice. Now what we're going to do is talk about slice. What does slice do? Slice is a cool method. If we say, the thing about slice is it's going to return an array. So let's say slice result equals cars dot slice. And what we do is we sort of have a beginning and an end. So let's say we want to pull out the Chevy and the Ford and have an array that just include the Chevy and the Ford. What I would do is start with 1, and let's try that. And then we'll console log that out. Slice result. And so what it gave me is the Chevy. You can see that I ended up with an array. The slice result is an array with Chevy. And this is a little bit counterintuitive to me when I first saw this. But what slice does is the first parameter to slice is where you want to start. So I said I want to start here. And then the second parameter is what is the index of the item where you up to but not including where you want to pull it out. So 0, 1, 2. What this means is that I want to go to Ford but don't include the Ford. Okay? If I say 3 here, that means go to Tesla but don't include the Tesla. Okay? So if I put 3 there, I'm going to get 2 items. Okay? And let's see what happens if we put a 4 in there, just for the heck of it. So once I put a 4 in there, I'm going to get the remainder. Now, let's see what happens if we leave that out. If we just say start at 1. So if you say you want to start at 1, basically it just gives you the rest. And if I start at 2, it's going to give me Ford and Tesla. So this is a slice and splice. They sound similar, but they do some really interesting things. Let's talk about sort. Sort is a very important method to use. It's very powerful. You can see that our array is not in order, and so alphabetically. So what we want to do is make this array so it's alphabetical. So we're going to say cars.sort. It's really simple. You just type cars.sort, and then we'll do a log on cars. And so you can see that now they're in order. Okay. And another thing we can do is we can reverse that. Cars.reverse. And what you'll see is now they'll be in reverse order. And sure enough, the Volvo's last, the Chevy's first. So we can sort in reverse. Okay. I think that's all for this lesson.